Hello, Zen Disc Golf family. Thank you so much for joining me for episode number 14 of the Zen Disc Golf podcast. First, before we get started, let's show some love to our friends and family who help keep this show going and growing. AppalachianDiscGolf.com. You've heard me talk about them before. They have free shipping on all orders. Just about everything a disc golfer could want, including copies of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, signed by yours truly. Speaking of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, if you love audiobooks as much as I do, you're going to love this. Did you know that you could get Zen and the Art of Disc Golf in audio format for free? Just sign up for your free trial of Audible by heading to audibletrial.com/Zen Disc Golf to get a free month of Audible and download my book, Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, for free. And while you're there, Audible has over 180,000 books to choose from. And some of my favorites have been Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. I also want to go ahead and begin giving my Team Box shoutouts to the super fans who ordered the Super Deluxe Team Box via the Kickstarter. And the Super Deluxe Team Box for the Super Fan Elite upgraded them to signed books, signed putters, and shoutouts on the podcast. So in no particular order, thank you so much, Michael Brundis, Mark Heydt, Blair Van Velse, Josh Williams, Tim, Alex T. Spereley, Jon-Paul Lussier Jr., Joshua Phillips, Chris Wallen, Kyle Van Houtte, Rob Hosley, Jeremy Ziakas, Eric Hermann, Alan Hargreaves, who we interviewed on an earlier podcast, and Drew Frost. If I didn't mention your name, I'm going to. I just don't want to do all 60 or however many super elite fans we had just in one show. So keep listening. Thank you all so much for showing your love and support by upgrading your boxes to the Super Deluxe status. And now it's time for your moment of Zen. A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe. A part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts, and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is kind of a prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Albert Einstein. Welcome to episode number 14! Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 14 of the Zen Disc Golf podcast. My name is Patrick McCormick, also known as Zen Disc Golf and the author of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf. I am joined by Zach Englehart, a.k.a. the Ticklish Hamster. How are you, Zach?
Pat, what's going on, man? I'm doing all right.
Zach is our resident disc expert, christened that by me, an honorary degree that I bestowed upon him due to his insane amount of disc knowledge. We are also joined by Mr. Tim Stewart, aka Mind Body Disc, writer and proprietor of the Mind Body Disc blog. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing great, guys. Happy to be here to talk disc golf with everybody. Really looking forward to the podcast today.
Awesome. This slightly new format today could be quite interesting, but I think it'll be fun. Basically, in the past, it's been Zach and I sitting across a table and podcasting with Tim almost as a third wheel, unfortunately. But now, as I was telling them earlier, we're almost all third wheels now because nobody's sitting at the same table today. I'm in Virginia. Zach's in New York, Tim's in Chicago. So we're at the three corners of the United States. Well, they're close corners, but...
Yeah,
Zach,
I'm a tree.
Zach, how was your move?
Yeah, it was a move. It went about like, they never go the way you want them to 100%, but everybody got to New York safe and sound, and our our household goods made it in one piece, and it was good to reconnect with the family, and we're just readjusting to all living in the same place at the same time.
Very nice. I heard something about a $6 fine, though.
Oh, yeah. New York State's welcome home to the ticklish hamster was to fine him $6 for having too much weight on his trailer while he moved. Welcome home. You've broken the law. Pay us now. Thank you for your service.
Nice. That's too funny. $6. Tim, how's your back?
It's doing a whole lot better. Thanks for asking, man. It's amazing what happens when you take some time off, when your day job forces you to work more and not play disc golf. It's the blessing in disguise, I guess.
I've been off for like 2 months with the baby, which I don't know if that could qualify as being off work.
Entering my 4th week of vacation here, I can tell you that I've just been trying to find things to do. Well, that's not broken, but I'm going to break it so I can fix it. Nice. I did 25 cord of wood over 4 days, raking trails, cutting down trees. Things to do to keep the hands busy.
You're building your own course up there, though. I hear.
Yes, the Chateau d'Engelhart. I'm very fortunate that the family property, we have 27 acres, and my current setup is a nice 260-foot downhill slight backhand hyzer shot, and where the well is dug. There's a lighthouse, and it's mowed out around it. It's a nice little spot just to sit the goal. I go up to the top of the hill. I throw myself a nice little easy backhand or a real tough flick shot on an Anheuser, and people talk about field work, and I never really had the time to do it until I lived in a place with a field, and it's just. I finally figured out how to throw a wombat.
Nice. Well, with 27 acres, you better have more than one goal out there, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not very good use of the land.
Well, I've got the one, and I move it around when I can or how I want. The one that I'm really excited about, I got to wait for a few more leaves to come off the trees, otherwise, because it's just unbearable, is... The property goes up on a foothill of a mountain, and we've got a logging trail that basically cuts 2 fingers in half. Mm-hmm. And from the top to the bottom is about 550 feet, and it's a straight shot down the hill, and then there's a nice little landing where it's relatively guarded but still open enough to fit a disc through. And I'm really excited about that because it's about 220-foot drop along with the 550 feet down. And it's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to just a few more leaves got to come off the trees. Otherwise, I'll be spending more time looking for discs than I am throwing them.
You don't have any close courses out there, do you?
My closest course is 90 minutes.
Well, that's not too bad. Well, Tim says, "Holy cow!" I'm like, that's not too bad.
And I've got a good little partner to play with up here. My brother Benjamin, he's just learning how to play. And bless his heart, I let him use my favorite disc, and sure enough, he lost it on the first throw because he's a real helpful guy. And,
how close is your closest course, Tim?
Oh, geez, 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, if I drove 90 minutes, I could probably get to, in this area, between 20 and 25, maybe even 30 different courses within that driving distance.
Holy cow.
Yeah, there's courses everywhere here. We've got a ton of them. I'm not sure last time I looked was a couple of years ago, but Illinois is definitely up there in the top 5 or 10 as far as number of courses per state. So we're pretty fortunate around here. And the course that's closest is 2 18-hole in one park, just a monster designed by Chuck Kennedy. It's just there's no reason to go further than that one, to be honest with you. It's just great. So feel very lucky.
So do you have a place for Zach and I to stay when we come up and visit?
Absolutely. The bathroom floor is always relatively clean. You can camp out there.
Perfect.
Stay in your car in the driveway. That'll work too.
Even better.
No, of course, I'd love to have you guys out. That'd be awesome. And what I'm hearing, Zach, is everybody who has an extra basket needs to send it to you, right? Plus maybe a replacement disc or two.
That's probably what that's what the word is on Facebook.
All right. Perfect. Well, do you want me to put your address in the show notes?
Go for it. Never know. I might get lucky. So somebody starts sending me, discs and baskets, maybe a couple $1,000. You ask for little things.
No, ask for more. That way, when they give you less, it's hey.
Well, you can't be disappointed.
Reach for the stars.
I'm excited to get up here and golf with some New York golfers and see what they're about. It's going to be a bit of a hike, and I've got to get in a couple of rounds before the winter really sets in up here. We're rapidly approaching fall. The leaves have already changed. It's getting a little brisk outside. The fishing's starting to get real good, but I don't want to miss out on the good fall disc golfing, because once the winter comes and we've got 5 feet of snow, I'm pretty much trapped.
Wow. I used to live, speaking of how close you live to courses, I guess maybe from my house, Zach, what is it? Maybe 45 minutes to the closest course?
That's about right.
Would that be no, that would be still Bayville, but I used to live pretty much 3 minutes from Bayville when I was writing the book and everything, and I was playing that every day. But I played a unique place here over the past. I haven't played too much because being home with the baby, but we did get out and go on a little mini vacation, and I played at a very notable disc golf resort, as it were. Chris and I went up to the Mountain Lake Lodge. Have you guys heard of that?
I have.
I have not.
Mountain Lake Lodge is where the movie Dirty Dancing was filmed. And so so we actually stayed in the building that you can see in that movie Dirty Dancing. Now, I'd never seen Dirty Dancing, and I refused to watch it before we went up there.
Oh,
That's good. Yeah, you just want to not watch it on principle alone.
Yeah, but I watched it when we got back, and I was like, holy cow. Anyway, so yeah, we stayed in the big, the stone-looking building like that's in that movie, and it's a very nice area. It's a very nice lodge and resort, but there is a certain sadness there because the lake that you can see in the movie is more or less halfway gone. So you go there and you expect to kind of, it looks like a lakeside resort, and you still have like these docks and boat docks and buildings that should be looking over a lake, and it's all dry. So it's very surreal to see. You could look up images on Google or whatever. But what they've done is they've kind of, because the lake is mostly gone, I think that ended up drying out in 2008, and they don't even know why. It's an interesting thing to research, that this huge lake just kind of disappeared all of a sudden. But what they decided to do was kind of, in order to keep people coming, they knew they couldn't rely on the movie forever, movie nostalgia forever. They decided to turn the place sort of into a adult camp. And so they have like all these activities for adults and kids as well to do, volleyball. They have tennis, pools, and then they have like archery. They have some cool things. They have it's like an archery tag where they go out and which sounds that's a terrible idea.
No, you don't want to lose.
You wear like the Velcro and they've got like the padded tips on the arrows.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So they do all that, but so the resort kind of puts all this stuff together. When you go up there, none of the rooms, to my knowledge, have televisions or anything like that. So it's kind of a good getaway. But what they've done there is they've built an 18-hole disc golf course on top of the mountain, where I believe an old ball golf course used to be. And so that's one of the attractions. Now, my wife is a big Dirty Dancing fan, and that's why she wanted to go up there. And so she goes, "There's a disc golf course." I was like, "All right, sign me up. Let's go." So I did have a chance to go up there and play, and it was beautiful. The only downside of it is that you have to drive up to this area, and it's kind of hard to get a car up to a Prius. It's kind of hard to get a car up there. And then it's sort of off-road for a mile and a half to walk up there. But they're actually doing PDGA events up there, which is the views up there are amazing. It's a great course to play. So if you're ever it's in Blacksburg, Virginia. If you're ever in that area and you want to go play at a very nice course, I recommend going up there. When we walked into the lodge, the first thing I saw in this case was this painting of an INSO circle, which is what my logo is based on. If you know what the Zen Disc Golf logo is, it has what's called an INSO circle around it, which is kind of In Zen art, it was sort of the art of drawing a perfect circle in one swipe. That's where that kind of comes from. But there was a painting of that in the first case right next to an AVR disc.
That's awesome. I saw you post that on Instagram.
like
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like, okay, did you know I was coming, or what's going on here? It's kind of surreal. But I started texting Zach not long after I got back, and I was like, hey, Zach, I got an idea for a movie. We should remake Dirty Dancing, but replace all of the dancing with disc golf.
Dirty disking?
Dirty disc golf. So what we'll do is it's the exact same movie. I think I'm gonna throw a Kickstarter up for this. I'm not really gonna do it.
Nobody put Zach in the corner.
Yes.
If that's the case, Tim's got to be my dad because Tim's big and scary. You got to put me in the corner.
So what if we remade the entire movie of Dirty Dancing, and then just replaced all the dancing with disc golf? So it's exact same plot. Like, okay, so there's supposed to be some big doubles tournament coming up but a player can't play it because of, well, if you've ever seen, I don't want to give away the Dirty Dancing. So watch that movie, but imagine replacing all of that with disc golf. I think it'd be hilarious.
No, we're not doing that.
No, do it.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know how we're going to recreate some of those dance scenes, but it's going to be wildly, wildly erotic if we do.
I'm looking forward to playing with you guys in the water and lifting you up over my head. And it's going to be great.
Imagine somebody teaching somebody else how to play disc golf, reaching around them and, carefully, guiding the disc.
Like everybody's going to have to get really, really great shape so we can wear tight black clothes like Patrick Swayze.
So anyway, I just had that vision while I was up there, and we laughed back and forth about it. So speaking of team boxes, you like how I did that segue there?
Like a professional.
Great segue.
That's how I'm going to segue everything from now on. So speaking of team boxes, so the team boxes are coming together. Just about everything has been ordered for them, or is in the process, or is on its way, or is already sitting in my living room. And I sent both of you guys a preview of the bag tags and the disc. What'd y'all think?
Super cool.
I love the disc. Looks great. I was a little upset when I first saw the discs in the bag tag because I didn't see my face on there, but. No, they look phenomenal. I mean, I love the setup on the disc, and I'm a really, really big fan of the bag tag. And it took me a couple of looks to realize that on the bag tag, those are chains and not leopard print.
Leopard print bag tags. That was my first priority, to make sure everybody got leopard print. I guess I should have put that in the Kickstarter.
But I love them, and I'm looking forward to it. And I can't wait to hit the course with the bag tag and the disc, and just put a hurting on anybody that should be so unfortunate to cross my path.
Nice.
They're super cool, man. They came out great. Cool.
So what we did was we went with the Judge, Dynamic Disc Judge is the putter that everybody will be getting. What was the plastic we got, Zach? Do you remember what I said I was going to get?
I thought was it Lucid, I think?
I think it might be
like Lucid.
I think it might be the Lucid. So I'll look that up and I'll put it in the show notes exactly what the plastic was. I believe it was. I think it was the Lucid. We did go with the Judge, so I'm really looking forward to seeing those. And then the bag tags are aluminum, so that ought to be cool.
Oh yeah.
I also got some new stickers that are going to be coming also in the boxes, some new designs and stuff. So looking forward to putting those boxes together and getting them out to everybody.
Yeah, people are going to be thrilled they got in on that. I tell you, anybody who didn't get in on it, you're gonna feel bad you didn't. You missed out.
If you really want to drum up business, Pat, you got to tell everybody that the bag tags are pumpkin spice flavored.
Be great for
limited time only.
October. Yeah, the boxes should be coming out as I said before, at the end of September or the beginning of October. So really look forward to getting those together and getting them out to you guys, and looking forward to seeing the unboxings and unveilings on Twitter and Facebook and all those places. So today, let's start the show. Speaking of game variations, so we want to talk a little bit about game variations today and mixing up your gameplay. And in one of the chapters in the book, I talked about why disc golf becomes work, or why anything becomes work. And one of those reasons is when you get bored at something, and it kind of loses its zeal. It can cause you to get a little bit more stressed out about things that it makes you forget it's just a game. And I think that using variations in your game and varying your gameplay could be kind of the medicine for that. And one of the ways you can do that are just very obvious. You can play with new people, play different courses, play different tees. But I want to talk a little bit more about some expanded game variations. And I asked the guys to kind of brainstorm on some things that they've either played, seen, heard, thought of, invented, so that we can give you some more ideas to go out there and really mix up your disc golf game. So, have at it.
Well, I think the one that you and I had talked about for a while, Pat, was you would, instead of a bag swap, you would pick a disc out of your own bag.
Yeah. And
have your partner or your opponent throw that disc as if you picked their shot for them.
Right. And I kind of came up with that idea based on the bag swap, which was something that we had talked about on the show, and then Tim had written a blog about it, completely unrelated. And basically, that would be the variation where you go out on the course and you just swap bags with whoever you're playing with, and it kind of forces you to use what they would use. But then I said, well, what if we made it even, more strict, and we don't necessarily have to swap bags, but, say on hole number 1 at Bayville, I always throw a backhand stalker. Well, I'm going to give my stalker to Tim and say, Tim, you have to throw this disc, and you have to throw it the way that I would throw it, a backhand. And then you proceed from hole to hole. You don't have to do every shot that way. You don't have to do your mids and your putting and all that kind of stuff that way. But to tell someone else what type of shot and what type of disc that you would do. Now, you don't want to set them up for failure and be like, yeah, I backhand a discraft flick off this shot. What?
There's no way.
It's a dog leg right.
But I think, from a learning standpoint, that gives you an immeasurable value, because you're going to be thrown a disc you may not have ever thrown, a plastic type you may not have ever thrown. You're going to see a line in a different way, and it's going to force you to develop, similar to like a wide receiver in football as a route tree. It'll off a different tee pad, it'll give you kind of a different, I guess I'll call it a line tree. I don't know what the best way to call that, but it's going to expand your repertoire off of any tee box, and it's going to give you a different idea. If you're used to throwing a putter off X tee box and your buddy throws a mid off X tee box, it gives you a kind of a wider range and more options. When it comes tournament time, you're going to have different weather conditions, wind, and heat or cold, and it gives you a little bit of an option. You got to think about if your disc skips, okay, I throw this so my putter, it doesn't skip. Well, sometimes you need to get about wide, throw a mid, it'll skip a little bit more. I think it's good for expanding the repertoire.
Yeah, it sounds like absolutely. A fun. We never got around to trying it, but it did sound like a fun way to go about it. How about you, Tim? Any ideas for game variations?
Yeah, absolutely. There's my favorite one, and I always have a blast when we play this, and we don't really have a name for it, but basically the rules are this: you go out on the course and you're going to play around, and you have whatever your normal number of discs is. So let's say you carry 15 discs with you on a normal round, and the rule is you can only throw each disc one time. And you have to have thrown all of them one time before you can throw a disc a second time. So if you have, if you have a favorite driver, you can only throw that driver one time, and then you got to rely on the rest of the discs in your bag. So it really makes you think about, do I need to throw my favorite driver here? Should I save it for the next hole? Or maybe I putt with my overstable utility disc because, I'm close to the basket and I don't really need to use the putter there. It really makes you think about, which disc is most important on each hole, so it makes you think about strategy.
You got to think the future too.
Yeah, you've got to think way ahead on the course and think about, the holes that are coming up. But another neat thing is it really makes you think about, well, I would normally throw, disc X on this hole. Maybe I'd normally throw an overstable mid-range and a hyzer line here, but I really need that disc for later on. So what other disc can I make hit that line? Maybe I back off on a fairway driver, or I back off on a distance driver and hit the same line with it, or something like that. So it makes you think about different shot selection. It makes you think about using the discs that you have in your bag that, we all kind of get in a rut sometimes, and you end up throwing the same disc the same way all the time. You don't realize that disc can do a lot more than you use it for. So it's a really fun game. It really makes you think, and everybody usually has a good time when we do that.
That does sound fun. We should have done that, Zach. Wish I would have known about that.
I have a sneaking suspicion that when I can sneak down to Syracuse to get in and around, that's what I'm going to do.
So basically, you select a number of discs that everybody has to carry, and then you go one by one, and then you can't throw that one again until you've thrown everything else.
You got it. So once you throw your driver, you can't throw it again until the other 14 discs have been thrown, or 20 discs, or however many discs you start with.
So do you remember it, or do you kind of put it back in your bag in such a way, maybe flip it backwards or something? So
I usually just put them at one end of my bag. I'll
Okay.
put the used ones at one end and then just keep stacking them in after that disc, so I can kind of see what order I used them in. And then when there's nothing left on the right-hand side of the first disc I used, I know that I'm ready to recycle those puppies again.
Right on. That sounds fun. And of course, you have the basic single disc or two disc, which Zach and I did pretty often. We just got tired of carrying our bags, and we'd be like, all right, select two discs.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah,
that helps you with form, and especially because you're probably going to go with something pretty straight, stable, and then so when you have to shape your shots, it kind of teaches you how to do, instead of letting the disc do all the work, to let your throw do a lot of the work. So we like to do that one. Tim, you mentioned that card game, but I don't think anybody of us have played it. The Ripped game.
Yeah, that's floating around out there. I'm not sure if it's still available or not, but you could easily, if it's not available, you could make it up on your own. And basically, I've seen a few of the cards, and basically the idea is on every tee, you draw a card, and on that card is an assignment.
Okay.
So it could be throw a disc from your friend's bag. You have to throw a putter off the tee. You have to throw a sidearm. There's just a ton, like the 52 or however many cards there. There's different challenges that you would pull. And then the cards kind of tell you, and it's kind of a little bit of a random assignment of stuff. But I've heard people, that have had really good time playing it. I just never ended up ordering it from online or getting it any time or being in a group that had it, that was playing it. But it sounded like an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's still available. At least I've seen it on infinitediscs.com. You can definitely order it there, at least from there. If anybody has an experience with that, tweet it to us and let us know what you think about the Ripped game. RIPT, I believe, is how it's spelled. Another variation are some of the doubles variations. What are some of the doubles variations y'all have played?
We used to play a lot of Cali down in Virginia, or not Virginia Beach, but in Pensacola. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's where you play when you only have three guys and you want to play doubles, or you want to be able to play. So we'll say, for instance, you've got one guy that's really good. You got one guy that's middle of the road, and you got one guy that's just god awful. Mm-hmm. And so you pair the guy that's really good with the god awful guy, and let the middle of the road guy play. So you've got the good guy and the bad guy playing doubles, and they're playing best ball, and then you've got your
playing
odd
against
man
the middle of the road
throws his regular throws, but he gets one extra throw per hole.
Oh, okay. We did play that with with one of your buddies, Zach.
Yeah. I think we did it with Steve, maybe.
Yeah.
And in that one, that was really fun. It can be a little unfair at times, depending on the level of competition. If you've got a guy that can always consistently have birdie putts, it's kind of unfair. But but it does make for good fun when it's your beginner level, or your, I guess, middle of the road disc golfers playing pro tees, that kind of thing.
Right on. Mm-hmm. Right on. Another variation for doubles is worst disc. You ever played that?
I just play that all the time.
I play that by myself just for my own, play 2 or 3 disc worst shot, but not in doubles. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's hard to get a group of guys to say, okay, let's all play our worst shots, because everybody always wants to play their best shots. But it really kind of helps when you play your worst shot, because it, as we talk about on the podcast all the time, it puts you in a situation that you may not otherwise be in. So that's an option for doubles play.
We like to play match play too. Do you guys ever play any match play?
I don't know.
Oh, you play per hole? Are you talking about like
You play to win the hole. So the overall total score. It's nice because it takes the blow up holes out of the situation. So anybody's got a chance to win each hole. So you're just playing for if you get the low score on the hole, you get a point. And whoever's got the most points at the end, usually it's you're playing +1 or -1. So I'm up 1 on you, and then you win the hole. So then it's back to even. But it's nice because if you're out of a hole, you don't have to beat yourself up because you took a 4 or a 5, and they took a 2. You're not down by 2 or 3 strokes. You're just down by the 1 hole. So
okay.
That's kind of nice. It evens up the playing field a little bit, and it's fun. Actually, in the college teams, I believe, are starting to play this way. To play match play quite a bit, and it's a lot of fun when you're playing with a group of guys to play match play instead of stroke play.
That's probably good for kids too, because it's not as it doesn't weigh as heavy on their shoulders, like you said, how many strokes they are down. It's just 1 point.
For sure, and if they win a hole, then you can make a big deal. Hey, you won the hole.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait till the end where you're like, you got stomped like a little, like the horrible disc golfer you are. Go home and cry. You can give them a victory, a couple times through the round because they won a hole, which is pretty cool.
That's good. That makes for good positive reinforcement.
Yeah. And then on the opposite end of that, I've played some speed rounds of birdie or die. Have y'all played one of those before?
No.
Basically, if you don't birdie it, you just keep going. If you don't get your shot close enough to birdie it, you just keep going. Simple as that. Wow. You don't take extra shots, anything beyond par or anything beyond birdie. You just pick up and go to the next hole. It's good if you're short on time but still want to throw another round. So I've played that before.
Now, have you guys played speed golf?
Where you basically sprint to your disc? Yes, I have. That is the most tiring thing ever. Good for you. Though,
it is, the big thing now is instead of long steady state cardio to lose weight or stay in shape, which is really bad for your joints and bad for you in a lot to ways.
Yep.
The first marathoner died, so that should tell you something right there.
Yep.
But sprinting is good for you. So it's cool because you throw your disc, you sprint to your disc, you throw your disc, you sprint to your disc, and people look at you like you're crazy. But it's a great workout. You can get around in really quickly, and you basically add your score to your time and come up with a net overall speed score. And I actually learned this from Juliana Korver, if you remember Juliana Korver. She used to play this all the time, and I was talking to her at Worlds, I think in 2005 in Milwaukee. And she was saying that was her daily routine, was to play speed golf. Wow. That's how she kept in shape.
I think the one time I tried it, I got through 4.5 holes and just laid on the ground and almost died. I couldn't imagine doing 18 holes with sprint golf.
Yeah, you gotta work up to it.
Yeah,
I'm a really big fan of glow golf.
Oh, okay, yeah, nighttime variations
for sure.
I've done that a couple of times, and you take your bigger glow sticks and you weave them into the chains on your baskets. You can kind of put some along the fairway, but it's going to start getting expensive after a while. But what we did was we weaved them into the baskets and then into the chains, and then we would tape a little glow stick to the bottom of all of our discs. So that way, if you hucked one and it went in the middle of no man's land, you'd still be able to see it in the dark.
Right on.
Yep. Tons of fun watching them fly through the air. Really cool when they hit a tree and they just take a left turn in the middle of nowhere.
What caused that?
Yep.
That's awesome. There's a course up here in Northern Virginia near Fredericksburg called the Blockhouse, which is kind of famous. I've talked about it with Zach sort of frequently. It's one of my favorite courses. But they have a little tiki course, which is what they call it. And it's a par 2 course, short course, and they've got the whole thing illuminated to play at night. And they do a lot of night rounds and stuff there. And We played, like 100 holes on that one night, and it's tough. You're scoring like 4s and 5s. They're supposed to be par 2s. And you're like, wow.
Oh, wow.
But it really helps with your short game and everything. I think none of the holes are longer than maybe 75 to 100 feet, but super challenging. And, some of the things they do is they put it like in monkey bars. The basket will be within monkey bars, so you've got to get it through the bars and everything. It's a super fun place. If you ever get a chance and you're in the area, definitely check out the Blockhouse. They have camping and...
Is there a regular bar there?
A regular bar?
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like something that belongs it would go well with adult beverages.
Yeah, I believe they do. It's a private course, so there's actually 2 large courses which are great. They're super fun to play, and then they have the tiki horse, but it's private. I think it's on a guy's farm, and yeah. So I think they do sell adult beverages there.
Nice.
During certain events, anyway. Let's see. Any other ideas for variations?
I've also played around where this isn't really a variation, but you just carry a big red wagon full of beer and whoever lives wins.
I'm guessing you won every time if you lived.
Well, live is a relative term.
True.
We've had a lot of fun down in. Well, this was back in Pensacola before I learned the finer points of course etiquette. But we would carry this big red wagon, and it had mud tires on it. We put a cooler full of beer in there, and it holds 75, 80 beers. And the way we would play was everybody would throw their shots on the hole, and whoever had the best score had to pull the cart.
Okay.
Which
Nice.
which was fun when everybody was even, but I started to pull ahead of my peers, and then I got stuck pulling the cart 17 holes around.
Nice. And you only played this on private land, right?
Yeah, this was on it's Blue Angel Disc Golf or Blue Angel Park and their disc golf courses where they have a clubhouse where you can go down and get a whole case of beer if you want, get a sandwich and that kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
For all those people who are against private courses, there are benefits to playing private.
Oh, you couldn't beat it. I mean, they had a clubhouse. You go get sandwiches, case of beer. You could buy a disc if you lost one on your own. And the clubhouse, because this is the Florida Gulf Coast, is right on the ocean. So if you're hot, you just go jump into the Gulf, cool off, and then you're back on the course.
That sounds awful. Who would want to go to something like that? That'd be terrible.
It's a terrible place, Tim. And
That
it's
sounds
not
like
for the
it.
faint of heart.
Yeah. And they probably charge you $3 to get in. God.
It's $2 to get in to play all day.
Disc golf rich.
And then if you're feeling if you're feeling generous, you can make a donation to the anonymous donation box of as much money as you want.
God. That sounds amazing. I'm going to put one of those in my front door.
There you go.
It'd probably just get filled with religious tracts and advertisements for a new roof or siding.
Number one Chinese.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, number one Chinese in my area is pretty good. Speaking of what you're throwing, sponsored by Appalachian Disc Golf. What are you guys throwing? What are you throwing, Tim?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is it Appalachian or is it Appalachian?
It's said both ways.
Is it? I'd like to know the proper way. There's got to be a right way, no? Or no?
Which way did I just say it? I say it both ways.
I've heard both.
Appalachian. We call. I think I stick with Appalachian much more than Appalachian.
All right.
I
me.
got to really think about it. Being from the Northeast, I think I call it Appalachian, but I'm also come from a place where a creek is a crick, and venison is venison. So
Yeah.
I haven't heard the Benson.
I think around here we say Appalachian much more often than Appalachian. But that's one of those things you really have to stop and think, what do I call it? Anyway.
I would like to hike the Appalachian Trail, though. That does sound pretty cool.
Yes, it would. There's actually a really there's a movie coming out, is it called Into the Woods? It's Bill Bryson wrote a book about hiking the Appalachian Trail. Now you got me guessing how to say it.
That was my intent all along. It worked.
Years ago, he wrote this book. It's absolutely hilarious. So we're really looking forward for the movie to come out. It's about basically it's Bill Bryson wrote it about hiking the trail and all of the different characters he ran into when he was hiking the trail, and it just looks really good. Anyway, that was completely off the wall.
Well, speaking of the West Side World.
Yeah. Speaking of the West Side World. Go ahead.
So that's what I'm throwing. Fall time, the wind kicks up. You know, we get a little bit more wind this time of year, and it's time to. It's been great. I don't know about you guys, but the summer's been really calm here. We haven't had to deal with too much wind at all.
Yeah, wind hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, last few days especially, the wind's been kicking up, and the World is a disc that comes out. It's probably the widest rim driver that I throw or put in my bag, and it's not in there all the time. It only comes out when there's wind, but it's one of those discs that if you can get your hand around the big wing, it's real kind of low profile, real sharp, just kind of feels and looks fast. But for me, I can throw on a little bit of a hyzer into some pretty stiff wind, and it'll sit up. It'll either sit up flat and go, or it'll turn a little bit for me. And it's super, super fast. So it's one of those discs where, you know, you see it go and it doesn't seem like it's in the air that long. And when it lands, it's always further out than you thought it was going to be. So
that's always good.
It's always a nice surprise that way. But
I like that.
But yeah, it's a really great wind disc, and it's a good distance disc for bigger arms. Folks who can throw real far like to use this just for their regular distance disc. It's a little bit much for me if I'm not throwing into a headwind. I go back to the disc I talked about a week or two ago, the Trespass, for that. But definitely check out the West Side World. It's got a picture of a duck on it, so if you like ducks, you got that going for you. Yeah, you can say quack as it flies through the air. The geese are flying south. I saw them the other day, so it all kind of comes together this time of year when the wind's out and the geese are flying and you get a duck or a goose on. Look at this goose, actually. A goose with an egg is what's on the disc. I'm not sure how that fits in. It's some kind of Finnish mythical sorcery tale or something. I don't know. I
buy all my discs based on the pictures on the stamps.
Yes.
Just want you to know. That reminds me, I was going to throw this in for another disc variation. Somebody mentioned one time, I don't remember who it was on Twitter, because I was asking about these, because I meant to do a podcast a lot earlier on disc golf variations, but only throw discs with animals on them, or only throw discs that are yellow, or, you know, that basically they make the rule for that for their group or whatever.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
disc golf Uno?
What is it?
Like disc golf Uno?
Disc golf Uno?
If I throw a yellow disc with a bear on it, you got to either throw a bear or a yellow disc.
That is genius. Did you just come up with that?
My head hurts a little bit, but I did just come up with that.
We need to market that. I don't know how we can, but we need to market that. That was great. How many discs are there with bears?
I don't think there's any.
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen one. That was the first animal that came to my head.
That's a good idea. But you could do it this way. You could, if I throw a putter, if I throw a yellow putter, you could either throw a putter or a yellow disc.
I like it.
Boom. We're inventing things.
Teamwork.
Coming in the next team box, disc golf Uno.
Zach, what are you throwing?
I'm throwing a nice little Innova G-Star Wombat. This disc is giving me fits. And I finally
he's going to do a disc review, and the first thing he's going to say is he doesn't like the disc.
This disc is terrible. Don't throw this one.
This is what I'm throwing, and I don't even know why I'm throwing it.
For the longest time, I had it in the bag, and I was like, why do I have it? And
funny.
It took a few weeks of field work, and I finally figured it out. And it doesn't happen very often where I pick up a disc and I'm like, I don't get it. Like this doesn't make any sense. And I think
this disc is square. I don't get it.
Ask.
It doesn't make any sense. But I found out that G-Star plastic is so gummy and the disc is so thin that I was putting too much pressure. There was too much torque on a hard pull that it wasn't flying. It basically wasn't working. So I had to slow my throw down as a lot more of a finesse throw and really just kind of it's a glider like a fox bat. It glides really well. You just gotta let the disc do its job, and you can't muscle it. And that was a good lesson in patience and understanding, because like I said, it very rare when I throw a disc I'm like, man, why isn't this working? It's an awesome plastic. I love the G-Star plastic. Great metallic shine to the plastic. Awesome grip. And they're flexible. You can fold them in half. And again, that's a 5-speed. It's a 6 glide, and my goodness, does it ever glide on? And you got to just finesse it out there. Got that neg 1 turn and a 1 fade. I kind of disagree with the neg 1. I think it's a little bit more. It depends on how hard you throw it. If you baby it, yes, but if you torque it at all, it's much more. It doesn't come back. That low speed fade's just not there, and it's gonna kind of end straight. Great for a placement shot. It's very understable in my opinion, but it's a skill level disc that it's an understable disc for anybody.
Nice. And true or false, you threw your first one into the water in Japan.
I did. Yep. There's a disc floating around in the Gulf of Japan with my name on it, and it is a G-Star Wombat.
Yep. And that's the disc we're giving away today.
So you couldn't figure it out, so you bought another one.
Yep.
Actually, I think I donated one to you.
Yeah. Pat gave me one, and yeah. Well, no sense in giving up on it. I mean, they made the disc for a reason, and there's room for it in my bag now that I understand that it was me and not the disc.
So I have a question for you about the G-Star. Do you play with that in the woods at all? Have you found that the floppier plastic kind of kicks off trees less, or is that not I haven't played with any G-Star discs, so. That's
a good question. I find I don't hit too many trees, but when I do it, they'll bend when they hit the tree.
Wait a minute.
I don't usually hit trees, but when I do, it's with the G-Star.
I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. When they hit the trees and they're so flexible, they'll bend and they'll bounce. They'll slow down significantly, but they'll stay airborne. The major thing that I've noticed with the grip and the flex of the plastic is when you throw like a forehand and they normally skip, they'll bend and they just kind of stick right to the ground. So they'll die. And that's on a lot of grass and hard packed like hardwoods ground. I haven't thrown it on where it's hitting like hard sand or anything like that, which I would suspect that it would skip more. But when it's hitting grass or woods, they'll stick right to the ground.
But here's the key: in the winter, especially with winter where you're up in northern New York, they'll probably maintain better and not snap in half like a lot of the other discs.
That's true, and I'm curious to see how that's going to work because nobody in their right mind is going to go outside and throw a disc when it's negative 30 degrees. But I've never claimed to be in my right mind.
I was going to say.
And you can put a stamp on it. The first time it's negative 30 degrees, me and my basket are going on a hike, and I'm going to put my discs through their paces. And yeah, sure, some of them are probably going to break. But why not? I mean, it's going to be a fun endeavor anyway.
Right on. So speaking of snapping discs in half, I'm going to review the only disc I've ever snapped in half, and that's the KC Pro AVR. I love this disc, and Zach has seen me take it off of just about every type of shot. The only thing I don't throw with a KC Pro AVR is a flick. I just haven't figured out how to flick an AVR. But I take this thing off of T-pads. I do all of my upshots. Almost every upshot I do is with a KC Pro AVR. I've been throwing it since the beginning.
You're not kidding. I mean, you throw that thing driving down the road at pedestrians in the mall. It's unreal.
It's definitely my most used disc, and that's probably why it's the only one I've ever snapped in half. The funny thing is I snapped it in half in my backyard, which there's not that much throwing room back here, so I don't know how I got a good enough muscle on it to get it to snap all the way down through the center of the disc. A funny thing about that is I took a picture of it, tweeted it, and said, moment of silence for my KC Pro. Yeah, that's nerdy. Anyway.
It was sad. It was a sad time.
So, I love it. And really almost everybody's thrown an AVR. The only difference here is just the plastic is just, there's something about it. It's got good grip to it. It's got good weight to it, especially if you get something in about the 170s. Speed 2, glide 3, turn 0, fade 2, just like most AVRs, but I don't know, it's just like the perfect disc to do everything. And so I carry that on the outside pocket of my bag. Even if I'm putting with something a little bit softer because it's hot outside, I may not putt with the KC Pro AVR. I'll putt with something a little bit softer because it seems to catch the chains a little bit better. But I take this thing off tee pads. I'm getting out of trouble with it. I'm doing, mid-range shots with it and occasionally putting with it. I love my KC Pro. You'll never take it out of my hands.
It's a great disc, for sure.
Yeah,
it's a great recommendation.
Absolutely.
So, hey, let's give a book away. Speaking of giving books away, for every podcast, we do give a book away to someone who has left a 5-star review for the book on Amazon. And I know people go, why would somebody leave? Why would you send a book to someone who already has the book, who's given you a 5-star? Well, because if you like the book, why not get a signed copy of it? And then you can take your other copy where you've highlighted it and underlined and do all that kind of stuff and give it to somebody else on the disc golf course. So we pick a review just at random. It's a 5-star review off Amazon of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, and I sign a copy of it and send it to you. So if Zach reads your review, email me at zendiscgolf@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to ship you a signed version of that.
All right. And are you ready now for the review?
I am super ready.
Let's do it. 5 out of 5 stars. Disc Golf is Life.
Hey.
Life is Disc Golf
Hey.
by Jonathan Vance on July 29th, 2015. And Mr. Vance bought the book in paperback. Here's the review. This book has the ability to fundamentally change the way you look at disc golf and life, and live inside of every moment. I pick up something new every time I read it. I call it my slump buster.
That's awesome.
I'm going to sign a slump buster, and I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to start referring to the book as a slump buster, no longer by its title.
I like
author
that.
of
That's
Slump Buster.
That's a great advertising phrase.
Hey, slumpbuster.org.
Somebody needs to name a disc the Slump Buster.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry.
You gotta make some clickbait, Pat, and be like, is your disc golf game in a rut? Are you struggling off the tee? Do you need a slump buster? Wait till you read this.
Don't tempt
awesome.
me. I might do that.
Did you finish, Zach?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
All right. Who wrote that review?
That was Jonathan Vance.
Jonathan. Again, send me an email when you hear your review here on the podcast, zendiscgolf@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you out a signed copy of it. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you so much for doing that 5-star review. Speaking of 5-star reviews, just like with our 5-star reviews on Amazon for getting signed books, over the past 4 or 5 episodes, we've been giving away discs, and I promised that if you leave a 5-star review for this podcast on iTunes, that I'm going to send you something. Now, it may not always be a disc. You may not always know what you're going to get. Usually it will be a disc, and I've had the luxury of the past 5 pods that I was able to send discs away to 5 different people who have left 5-star reviews. But maybe in the future, it could be minis. It could be other things. It could be big things. You never know. So what you do, drop a 5-star review for us on iTunes for the podcast. And hey, I'm going to send you something. Today, this is a very special disc. I'm sending a Discmania. It's a lime green Discmania first run G-Line PD2.
What?
Yeah, so it's a collector's item disc, really. And I'm going to send this to Pleptune, which I love I love that name, Pleptune. They wrote a review called Insightful and Relaxing. I started listening to this podcast a few weeks ago, and I've shot some of my best rounds at my home course since then. This podcast does a great job of explaining the mental aspect of disc golf. It's fun to listen to and can be applied anywhere in life. So, Pleptune, when you hear this review, send me an email, zendiscgolf@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you that collector's edition lime green Discmania first run G-Line PD2. It's pretty disc.
I liked it. I like getting my hands on it, licked by yours truly. But Pat, I've been reading the reviews on iTunes, and I've noticed there's some suspicious activity on the reviews, and I'd like to talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
I keep seeing these reviews out of Chicago by a guy named Jim Stewart, and it's getting a little weird. He keeps talking about how much he likes Mind Body Disc and how he's such a
Keep him on the
huge
cast.
fan of Mind Body Disc. I don't know what it is, but I got a sneaking suspicion.
Sounds
Not
like an
pointing any
amazing
fingers
man.
yet, but I'll find out who it is.
That's
When you
awesome.
find him, let me know when you find him. I'd like to say thank you.
That's really funny, though, because I've been noticing another character with the name of Ticklish Gerbil from New York. Well, guys, it's been fun. Always love giving stuff away. Always love talking to you guys. And hopefully people can grow from some of the tips and the disc tips and the game variations. If you have more game variations, by all means, tweet them to us at Zen Disc Golf, at Ticklish Hamster, at Mind Body Disc. We're always open to some things, and we may mention your game variation on another cast. Some of the ones we did mention today actually did come from Twitter a while back. But guys, it's always fun talking to you. And as always, I encourage everybody to go check out zendiscgolf.com, newly redesigned. Did y'all check that out?
It looks
I did.
beautiful.
I loved it.
Thank you. I think it looks pretty cool. So go check that out. Also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, everywhere where you can follow somebody. Every social network, we're pretty much there. Also go check out mindbodydisc.com. He's got some of the best articles in the mental game of disc golf, and
Thank you.
covers a wide range of topics. Definitely worth reading. You can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. He's all over the place. And also follow the wit and wisdom of our resident disc golf expert, the Ticklish Hamster, at Ticklish Hamster. But most importantly, just throw. Daggone it, my brain just stopped working.
Here, I got it. I got it.
Buster.
I got it.
I need a slump buster.